The massive alien ship hung silently in space, its dark metal surface reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. Inside the command center, Commander Gray stood with his forearms crossed, studying the holographic display of the blue planet below. His species had conquered 12 worlds before, but something about this one made his scales itch with uncertainty. "Report," he ordered, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The planet shows signs of basic civilization," Officer Reed replied, tapping through various scanning readings. "They have primitive vehicles, basic electronic communication, and simple weapons. No space defense systems detected. Their most advanced weapons appear to be chemical-based explosives and basic projectiles." Commander Gray nodded slowly. The Dominion had seen this level of development before. Such planets typically fell within days of deploying their war beasts. He turned to face the massive containment units that lined the walls of the lower deck. Inside each transparent chamber, dark shapes moved restlessly, the results of centuries of biological engineering. "Begin the first phase," he commanded. "Release test subjects in remote areas. Let's see how these humans handle our pets." Deep in the mountains of North America, John Miller and his team of forest rangers were conducting their routine patrol. The morning had started normally enough, but the strange lights in the sky the previous night had everyone on edge. "Base, this is Miller," he spoke into his radio. "Nothing unusual to report in Section 7. Though I could swear the animals are acting strange. Even the bears seem spooked." The radio crackled with static before responding. "Copy that, Miller. Keep your eyes open. We've got similar reports from other sectors." That's when they heard it. A sound that didn't belong in these woods. It was like metal scraping against stone, followed by a deep, resonating growl that made the ground vibrate beneath their feet. "What the hell was that?" whispered Lisa, Miller's deputy, reaching for her tranquilizer rifle. Before Miller could respond, the trees ahead exploded outward. Something massive moved in the shadows, something that shouldn't exist. It stood 3 times taller than a grizzly bear, its body covered in what looked like natural armor plates. Multiple eyes glowed in the darkness, and rows of teeth gleamed wetly in its oversized jaw. "Run," Miller shouted, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he grabbed his camera and started taking pictures. If this thing was real, people needed to know. The beast charged. Its speed seemed impossible for its size. Miller dove behind a thick tree trunk, just as massive claws ripped through the space where he had stood. The tree groaned, deep gouges torn into its bark. Up in orbit, Commander Gray watched the first encounters through the beast's neural links. "Excellent," he purred. "The humans respond exactly as expected. They run, they hide, they show proper fear." But then something unexpected happened. Miller's photos reached the nearest military base. Within hours, instead of panic and chaos, the humans began organizing. The military responded with surprising speed, but more importantly, they responded with methodology. "Sir," Officer Reed called out, concern in his voice. "The humans, they're not just running. They're studying the beasts. They're taking readings, measurements, samples from the environment. They've already established containment protocols." Commander Gray frowned. This wasn't the usual response. Most species either fled in terror or tried to fight blindly. These humans were doing neither. They were adapting, analyzing, planning. "Launch the second wave," he ordered. "Drop the beasts near their population centers. Let's see how organized they stay when facing true terror." As the order was given, more containment pods detached from the ship, streaking through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Commander Gray watched them descend, trying to shake off his growing unease. These humans were just another primitive species, weren't they? On the ground, Miller's photos had already gone viral. Humanity's first clear images of an alien threat. But instead of causing panic, they became a rally point. In military bases, scientific laboratories, and government facilities around the world, humans did what they did best. They prepared to fight back. The war for Earth was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they had just started. The sun was setting over New York when the first pods crashed into Central Park. Steam rose from the impact craters as massive shapes emerged from the twisted metal. People stopped to film with their phones, not yet understanding the danger. Then the screaming began. In the military command center, General Roberts watched the feeds with stern focus. After the first beast sightings in remote areas, they had prepared as best they could. Now, looking at the chaos unfolding across multiple cities, he wondered if it would be enough. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker called out, "we have confirmed drops in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Rio. More incoming." Roberts nodded grimly. "Deploy the rapid response teams. Remember the protocols. No heavy explosives until we understand these things better. And get me a direct line to Dr. Wilson at the research facility." On the streets of New York, the beasts proved far deadlier than anyone expected. They moved like living tanks, their armored hides deflecting standard bullets. Each one stood as tall as a city bus, with muscles that could flip cars like toys. But it was their intelligence that proved most frightening. They coordinated their attacks, herding people into traps. Above Earth, Commander Gray watched with satisfaction. "See how they scatter," he told his officers. "Their weapons are useless. Their vehicles provide no escape. This is why the war beasts have never failed us." Officer Reed monitored the data streams but looked troubled. "Sir, the humans, they're fighting differently than expected. Look at this pattern." In Tokyo, a beast charged down a narrow street, pursuing a military vehicle. The soldiers inside weren't shooting back. They were taking readings with specialized equipment. Another team approached from behind, using sonic devices to measure the creature's response to different frequencies. "They're not just fighting," Reed said. "They're gathering data, even while retreating." In London, a war beast cornered a group of soldiers in an old building. Instead of panic, the humans executed a prepared plan. They deployed specially designed nets, not to capture the beast, but to test its strength. Every encounter, every battle, added to their understanding. Dr. Wilson, watching from her lab, noticed something crucial. The beasts are strong, but they're designed for short bursts of activity, she reported to General Roberts. "Look at their breathing patterns after each charge. They're not built for endurance." This observation spread quickly through military channels. Soon, human forces began using hit-and-run tactics, wearing down the beasts instead of facing them head-on. They discovered that while the creatures were nearly invincible in direct combat, they tired easily when forced to chase their prey. Commander Gray's satisfaction turned to confusion as he watched the humans adapt. "Impossible," he muttered. "They're learning too quickly. Launch the third wave. We'll overwhelm them with numbers." But as more pods fell from the sky, humanity's response only grew more organized. Cities had been evacuated according to pre-planned protocols. Military units had shifted to mobile warfare, never staying still long enough to become easy targets. Scientists worked around the clock, studying every piece of data from each encounter. In New York, a beast that had seemed unstoppable an hour ago now labored to breathe, its movements growing sluggish. The humans had led it on a carefully planned route through the city, forcing it to expend energy without rest. "Sir," Officer Reed reported to Commander Gray, "we're losing contact with some of the first-wave beasts. They're being taken down." Commander Gray stared at the screens in disbelief. No species had ever lasted this long against the war beasts, let alone started defeating them. These humans weren't just surviving. They were turning his own weapons into research subjects. On Earth, General Roberts allowed himself a small smile as the first reports of successful beast captures came in. "Send everything to Dr. Wilson's team," he ordered. "It's time we learned exactly what these things are made of." The aliens had expected terror and submission. Instead, they had given humanity a crash course in fighting monsters. And humans, as they would soon learn, were very quick students. Dr. Wilson stood in the reinforced observation room, studying the captured war beast through thick glass walls. The creature lay sedated on a massive examination table, its armored chest rising and falling slowly. Teams of scientists moved around it like careful ants around a sleeping giant. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a detailed scan on her tablet. "Their armor isn't just physical, it's alive. It grows and repairs itself." She turned to General Roberts, who had flown in to see their progress. But that's not even the most interesting part. In another section of the facility, researchers had discovered something unexpected in the beast's blood samples. "They're not natural creatures," one scientist explained. "They're engineered. And whoever made them left behind some interesting mistakes." Up in orbit, Commander Gray was facing his own problems. The neural links with the war beasts were sending back disturbing data. "What do you mean they're afraid?" he demanded, his scales darkening with anger. "They're designed to feel no fear." Officer Reed checked the readings again. "The humans, they're not just fighting the beasts anymore. They're hunting them. Systematically. The beasts can sense it, and they're responding with fear responses we didn't know they could feel." On the streets of Chicago, a military team demonstrated this new reality. They moved with confidence, using sound weapons developed from Dr. Wilson's research. The high-pitched frequencies didn't harm humans, but caused the beasts intense discomfort. More importantly, it forced them to reveal a crucial weakness. "Their healing ability requires energy," Dr. Wilson explained to military commanders worldwide via video conference. "Lots of it. If we keep them moving, keep them healing, they eventually run out of resources. That's when they become vulnerable." The knowledge spread quickly. Around the world, military tactics shifted. Instead of trying to kill the beasts outright, human forces focused on wearing them down. Special units were formed, trained specifically in beast hunting techniques. They used the creature's own strength against them, forcing them to heal from minor wounds until their energy reserves depleted. In the research facility, Dr. Wilson made another breakthrough. "These creatures," she explained to her team, "they're designed for short, brutal conquest missions. Their creators never expected them to face prolonged resistance. They have no sustainable way to replenish their energy on Earth." This discovery changed everything. Human forces began using containment strategies, herding the beasts into areas where they would have to constantly heal and move. The creatures that once seemed invincible started showing signs of exhaustion. Commander Gray watched in growing horror as his supposedly perfect weapons began to fail. "This is impossible," he muttered, reviewing the latest reports. "No species has ever done this. They're not just surviving. They're solving the puzzle we spent centuries creating." On Earth, the tide was turning. In London, a team of hunters took down a war beast using nothing but carefully coordinated sound weapons and endurance tactics. In Tokyo, scientists discovered how to disrupt the neural link between the beasts and their alien controllers. In Rio, military forces successfully trapped and captured 3 beasts without losing a single soldier. Dr. Wilson's team worked around the clock, learning more about their enemies with each captured specimen. "Their biology is incredible," she admitted, "but it's also their weakness. They're too perfect, too specialized. They can't adapt to prolonged combat like we can." General Roberts watched as another beast was brought in for study. "How long until we can turn them against their masters?" he asked. Dr. Wilson smiled. "We're already closer than you might think. These creatures aren't just weapons. They're tools. And humans have always been good at taking others' tools and making them better." Up in orbit, Commander Gray received the report he had been dreading. Over 30% of the deployed war beasts had been captured or neutralized. The rest were showing signs of deterioration. For the first time in the history of the Dominion, their ultimate weapons were failing. The humans weren't just learning to survive the war beasts. They were learning to master them. And in doing so, they were about to teach the aliens a lesson about underestimating Earth's most dangerous species. Major James crouched behind a fallen tree, his specialized tracking device showing clear signals. 3 war beasts were moving through the forest ahead, but something was different about their behavior. They weren't charging or attacking. They were running away. Target group heading north, he whispered into his radio. They're spooked, just like we planned. Around him, his team moved silently through the woods. Each soldier carried new weapons designed specifically for beast hunting. Sonic disruptors, energy-draining nets, and specially developed tranquilizers. What had started as desperate defense had evolved into a precise hunting operation. In orbit, Commander Gray faced a crisis he never imagined possible. "Show me the numbers again," he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Officer Reed's report was grim. 50% of our war beasts have been captured or neutralized. The rest are showing extreme stress responses. They're actively avoiding human contact. Sir, they're terrified. On the screens around them, they watched as their supposedly invincible creatures fled from human hunting parties. The beasts that were meant to be the ultimate predators had somehow become prey. Back on Earth, Dr. Wilson made another breakthrough in her research facility. The beasts aren't just afraid, she explained to General Roberts. They're learning. Their genetic programming is adapting, but not in the way their creators intended. They're developing survival instincts against humans. In the mountains where it all began, John Miller, now a specialist consultant for the military, watched a war beast with fascination. The creature was trying to hide, something no one had seen them do before. It had learned that charging at humans led to defeat, so it was attempting new strategies. They're intelligent, Miller reported, but their intelligence is working against them. Every time we defeat one, the others learn to fear us more. Their own survival instincts are making them weaker. Major James's team demonstrated this perfectly. They didn't just hunt the beasts. They studied them, predicted their movements, and used their own patterns against them. When a beast tried to ambush them from above, they were ready. When it attempted to double back behind them, they were waiting. Net team, ready, James commanded. Sound team on my mark. The operation went perfectly. Sonic weapons disoriented the beast, forcing it to waste energy on healing minor internal damages. The nets restricted its movement, making it burn even more energy trying to break free. Within hours, the once mighty creature was sedated and ready for transport. Commander Gray watched in disbelief as another neural link went dark. This is unprecedented, he admitted to his officers. These humans, they turned our own weapons into their prey. How is this possible? The answer came from an unexpected source. Earth's natural wildlife had started to adapt to the presence of the war beasts. Hawks and eagles helped track them from above. Local predators learned to alert humans to their presence. The entire ecosystem seemed to be working together against the alien invaders. In Dr. Wilson's facility, the captured beasts revealed more secrets. Their genetic structure is responding to stress in fascinating ways, she reported. The more they fear us, the more their bodies try to adapt. But they can't adapt fast enough. They weren't designed for this kind of psychological pressure. General Roberts reviewed the latest success rates with satisfaction. How long until we can deploy the reprogrammed ones? He asked. The first batch is almost ready, Dr. Wilson replied. Their loyalty programming was surprisingly easy to override once we understood their fear responses. They're like dogs, in a way. They naturally want to follow the strongest leader. And right now, that's us. Up in the Dominion ship, Commander Gray faced a decision he never thought he'd have to make. His war beasts, the pride of their military, had been reduced to frightened creatures hiding from human hunters. Worse still, humans were beginning to understand the beasts better than their creators did. Sir, Officer Reed reported quietly, we're detecting new neural signatures from the captured beasts. They're different. The humans aren't just catching them anymore. They're changing them. The tables had turned completely. The weapons meant to conquer Earth were about to become its defenders, and the aliens were about to learn an important lesson about the dangers of underestimating human adaptability. Dr. Wilson stood in the center of what her team now called the arena, a massive testing facility where the first batch of reprogrammed war beasts were learning to follow human commands. She watched as a beast the size of a tank gently picked up a training dummy with its massive claws. "Remarkable," she said to General Roberts, who had come to witness the progress. "They're not just obeying us. They're trying to please us, like eager students." The beast turned its multiple eyes toward them, waiting for approval. When Dr. Wilson nodded, it made a sound that would have been terrifying 2 months ago. Now, it sounded almost like a purr. In orbit, Commander Gray's situation was getting worse by the hour. "What do you mean we've lost all neural links to Section 7? He demanded, his scales now a pale shade of gray, a sign of extreme stress among his species. Officer Reed's voice trembled as he reported, "The humans aren't just breaking our control, sir. They're establishing their own. The beasts, they're responding to human commands now. And they're doing it better than they ever responded to us." On Earth, Major James led a different kind of mission now. His team moved through the streets of an abandoned city, but this time they had company. 2 reprogrammed war beasts walked beside them, acting as guards and scouts. The creatures that once terrorized cities now protected them. "Contact ahead," James radioed as his beast tensed. 3 hostile units, original programming. The difference between the reprogrammed beasts and their still wild counterparts was striking. The human-controlled creatures moved with purpose and strategy, while the alien-controlled ones had become erratic and fearful. In her lab, Dr. Wilson made another breakthrough. "We've cracked their biological programming completely," she announced to a room full of international military leaders. "We can now alter their genetic structure, make them stronger, more efficient, and completely loyal to Earth." The implications were enormous. Humanity hadn't just survived the alien weapon. They had mastered it and improved it. The war beasts were becoming Earth's first line of defense. Commander Gray watched in horror as his viewing screen showed human forces, now accompanied by controlled war beasts, systematically hunting down and capturing the remaining wild ones. "This is impossible," he muttered. "These were supposed to be simple primitives." The situation on the ground proved him wrong. In London, a pack of reprogrammed beasts helped evacuate civilians from a danger zone, showing gentleness that their original programming never allowed. In Tokyo, they worked alongside construction crews to clear debris. The weapons of war had become tools of recovery. Dr. Wilson's next report to General Roberts contained even more surprising news. "The reprogrammed beasts are teaching us things about their creators," she explained. "Through their genetic memory, we're learning about Dominion technology, their weaknesses, their fears." In the training facility, a young handler named Mike worked with a beast that had been captured just a week ago. The creature's transformation was incredible. From a mindless killing machine to an intelligent, cooperative partner. "They were never meant to be just weapons," Mike reported. "Their creators limited them, forced them to be violent. We're letting them be more, and they're flourishing." Up in orbit, Commander Gray received the report that would seal the Dominion's fate. Their own war beasts, now under human control, were being modified to survive in space. Earth wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was preparing to take the fight to the stars. "Sir," Officer Reed said quietly, "the humans are broadcasting a message to us. They say they want to thank us for giving them exactly what they needed to reach the stars." The ultimate irony wasn't lost on Commander Gray. In trying to conquer Earth, they had given humans the key to space warfare. The war beasts, designed to be the perfect invasion force, had instead become humanity's bridge to the cosmos. As he watched another group of his former weapons now protecting a human city, Commander Gray realized a terrible truth. They hadn't just lost their weapons, they had armed their future conquerors. The massive hangar doors of the secret military facility slid open, revealing something the aliens never expected to see. A war beast, larger than any they had created, stood proudly in advanced battle armor. Its multiple eyes glowed with intelligence, and its armored hide sparkled with integrated human technology. "Project Guardian is ready," Dr. Wilson announced to General Roberts and the assembled military command. "We didn't just improve them. We perfected them." The beast, designation Guardian 1, lowered its head to allow its human pilot to climb into the specially designed command seat between its armor plates. The neural link they had developed was different from the Dominion's crude control system. This was a true partnership. In orbit, Commander Gray's ship rocked with explosions. "What's happening?" he shouted, watching as warning lights flashed across his command center. "Sir," Officer Reed's voice shook with disbelief. "They're here. The humans. They've launched their own war beasts into space. They're attacking the fleet." Through the ship's viewing screens, they watched in horror as modified war beasts, wearing advanced space armor and guided by human pilots, tore through their defense lines. The creatures moved with impossible grace in zero gravity, using their strength and natural armor in ways the Dominion had never imagined. Back on Earth, Major James led the ground assault force. His team rode atop their bonded war beasts, moving with perfect coordination. The creatures that once terrorized cities now protected them, working alongside human military units with practiced precision. "All units, advance," James commanded. "Show them what Earth's defenders can do." Dr. Wilson monitored the battle from her command center, watching as her creations performed beyond even her expectations. "The neural bond between pilots and beasts is holding perfectly," she reported. "Their coordination is actually improving during combat." In space, Guardian 1 demonstrated why the humans had become the masters of these creatures. It moved like a dancer despite its massive size, avoiding enemy fire while protecting human ships. The beast and its pilot worked as one, their movements flowing together with practiced ease. Commander Gray watched his mighty fleet falling into chaos. War beasts that had been lost or captured now returned, enhanced by human technology and driven by human determination. They knew all the weaknesses of Dominion ships, knowledge gained from the genetic memory of their own weapons. "How?" he demanded, slamming his forehands on the command console. "How did they turn our ultimate weapons against us so completely?" The answer came as he watched a squad of human-controlled beasts tear through his ship's outer defenses. Where the Dominion had sought only to create weapons, humans had created partners. Where alien scientists had limited the beast's intelligence, humans had encouraged it to grow. On Earth, the remaining wild war beasts were making their final choice. Faced with the superior versions of themselves created by humans, they were surrendering voluntarily. Their genetic programming recognized the stronger power and adapted accordingly. "Sir," Officer Reed reported, his voice filled with resignation, "we're getting surrender signals from our remaining ground forces. The beasts, they're all switching sides." Dr. Wilson's next breakthrough came at the perfect moment. "We've fully mapped their genetic memory," she told General Roberts. "We now know everything about Dominion technology, their strategies, their weaknesses. Everything the beasts knew, we now know." In space, Guardian 1 led the final assault on Commander Gray's flagship. The beast moved with deadly purpose, its human pilot guiding it through a precise attack pattern that the Dominion had never thought possible from their simple weapons. "All ships," Commander Gray's voice shook as he gave the order, "retreat. Full retreat. Earth is too strong." As the alien ships flowed into deep space, they left behind the greatest irony of all. Their attempt to conquer Earth had instead given humanity the keys to the stars. The war beasts, meant to be their greatest weapons, had become Earth's greatest allies. Major James patted his beast's armored neck as they watched the alien ships disappear. "Good riddance," he said, and the creature rumbled in agreement. They had defended their home together, and now they would explore the stars together. The age of human domination had begun, and it started with the very weapons meant to destroy them. 1 year after the Dominion's retreat, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. In New York's Central Park, where war beasts had once rampaged through the streets, a young girl rode on the shoulders of a gentle giant. The beast's multiple eyes watched carefully for obstacles as it carried its precious cargo, showing the same care a parent might show a child. "They've become part of our society," Dr. Wilson explained to a group of international leaders. She stood in her research facility, now transformed into the Earth Defense Academy. What started as an invasion has become the greatest advancement in human history. Around the world, the partnership between humans and war beasts had evolved far beyond military applications. In disaster zones, they helped rescue teams navigate dangerous terrain. In construction, their strength and precision made impossible tasks routine. Even in space, human beast teams were building Earth's first deep space stations. Major James, now director of the Beast Integration Program, watched as new recruits trained with their bonded partners. "Remember," he called out to the students, "they're not just tools or weapons. They're allies, partners. Treat them with respect, and they'll give you loyalty beyond anything you can imagine." The news had spread through the galaxy. On countless alien worlds, the story was told with a mixture of fear and awe. The primitive species that had not only survived the war beasts, but had mastered them. The humans who had turned the galaxy's most feared weapons into their most trusted friends. In orbit, Guardian 1 and its pilot led a squadron of space-adapted beasts on patrol. Earth's first line of defense now consisted of the very creatures meant to destroy it. Other alien species had learned to keep their distance. The sight of war beasts under human control had become a powerful deterrent. The Dominion made one crucial mistake, Dr. Wilson told her students at the academy. They created the perfect weapons, but forgot that anything perfect can be turned against you. They gave us not just weapons, but teachers. Through the beast's genetic memory, we learned about space travel, alien technology, and the galaxy itself. Commander Gray's final report to the Dominion High Command had become infamous throughout the galaxy. "Do not attempt to conquer Earth. Their ability to turn strength against itself, to transform enemies into allies, makes them more dangerous than any species we have encountered. The war beasts were our greatest weapons, until we gave them to humans." On Earth, the changes continued. The beast's genetic structure had continued to evolve under human guidance. Each new generation was smarter, more adaptable, and more closely bonded to their human partners. What had started as a forced adaptation had become a true symbiosis. John Miller, the forest ranger who had first encountered the beasts, now led tours through a special sanctuary. "See how they live when they're not forced to be weapons," he would say, showing visitors the complex social structures the creatures had developed. "They have families, friendships, even their own culture. We didn't just tame them. We freed them to be what they always could have been." In the space around Earth, construction teams of humans and beasts worked together to build the planet's first interstellar ships. The genetic knowledge gained from the war beasts had accelerated human technology by centuries. Earth was no longer just defending itself. It was preparing to explore the stars. "The galaxy won't know what hit it," General Roberts joked during the launch ceremony for Earth's first exploration fleet. Each ship carried crews of both humans and beasts, ready to face whatever they might find among the stars. Dr. Wilson stood in her office, watching the sun set over a changed Earth. On her desk sat the first images taken by their deep space probes, showing distant worlds waiting to be explored. Next to her, a war beast, one of her first successful rehabilitations, dozed peacefully. "They thought they were dropping simple weapons on a primitive planet," she mused, patting the beast's armored head. "Instead, they gave us the keys to the stars." The beast rumbled contentedly in its sleep, no longer a weapon of war, but a symbol of humanity's greatest triumph, the ability to turn the tools of destruction into instruments of progress. The war beasts had come to conquer Earth, but in the end, they had helped humanity conquer the stars instead.